Okay, so we've got some cook's drawers that aren't working properly. This is a big unit. I have to say this rack is the dumbest rack in the world because of the way you have to have the panels on. So in order to charge this thing, I have to like barely put the panel on and peek through here to see the sight glass. It's just so stupid. It's dumb. But it's all because of the way that these panels have to be on because of where the position of the condenser fan motors is. And it draws air through the condenser. So if you pull it off, it bypasses the condenser and just sucks air through this panel area. So I'm still gonna come back and leak check all their coils. I can't get into the evaporators right now, but I think I found something at this pressure control. It was the kind of, every once in a while I'd get a hit with my leak detector, so I sprayed some big glue in there. It's foaming up a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell because I don't want to shut off the rack right now, but I'm pretty sure we've got a leak in there too. Kind of looks like the bubbles are foaming up. Looks like we got a bad pressure control too, but I don't even know if that's all that it is. See in there, there's a bunch of bubbles. So, but we're still going to come back and go through all the evaporator coils, but they're charged up now. Running a clear sight glass, made sure I have enough for the winter charge, so we're good. This unit does have a headmaster, so I'm just gonna watch the unit come down in temperature and then get out of here, and we'll schedule early morning to come and go through all the evaporator coils and leak check them. I did go downstairs really quick and just shut the system off and made sure there was nothing giant that was gonna leak out by, in an hour or anything. Nothing, but I need to tear them apart and thoroughly go through them. So this is a 2, 4, 6, 8. This is an 8-drawer unit, and it has like 1, 2, 3 bad fan motors, 1 going bad. It's a mess, so I topped off the charge for now. The charge is probably a little off because they have fan motors that aren't working, but there's only so much you can do. The box is at about 44 degrees right now, so it's going to take some time. It's going to be hard, but they know not to leave product in it tonight. Okay, so here's what we did. I made sure the thermostat was calling, and then I went onto the roof and turned off the condensing unit, so that way our pressures would equalize out, so that way I can do a proper leak check on this system. So then I'm going to pull every coil's cover and leak check them. And then we also have a bunch of fan motors bad too. It's a bad motor. The bearings are shot or something. Thing just won't spin. Motor's burnt out. Bad coil. I'm going to do a leak check real quick. I keep picking up a hit over here. It like comes and goes, so there's got to be something going on inside of that coil. It's not at the TXV, but it's just picking up. Oh yeah, it's coming from inside the coil somewhere. It's not from up here. Yeah, that's not good. Picking up something behind the wall too. Yeah, definitely picking up something in those vents. You gotta watch on these too, because it's very common for plastic and stuff to get stuck up underneath there, which is the case here. So I'm currently recovering the gas from this unit right now. I got another tech downstairs changing the evaporator coil. Altogether, we're going to change the liquid dryer today, the evaporator coil. We're going to change the suction line service valve Schrader port, and we're going to change this dual pressure control right here. So, and then we'll obviously vacuum it down and recharge. So to make this go faster, what I did was, the first thing I did was I pumped the unit down, meaning I front seated the liquid line receiver, so that way all the refrigerant was pumped into there, so that our tech my coworker can go ahead and start cutting that coil out. So that way he wasn't waiting for me to recover all the gas out of this unit. So once I did that, I opened up the low side, you see it right there, so that way the pressure was relieved on the low side of the system. And so now I'm just sucking the refrigerant out of the liquid line receiver. So and that's it. We're just rolling right now. I'm sure I've said this before, but if you don't already know, to make your recovery go faster, you obviously want to use bigger diameter hoses. I should be using a bigger diameter hose than that 1/4" yellow process hose. But what I actually have on the outlet, which is usually the most important part, is a 3/8 diameter hose coming out of the recovery machine going into the recovery tank. And then I inverted the tank and I'm pushing into the vapor port, because on the liquid port of the recovery tank, there's actually a slight restriction due to the size of the dip tube in that recovery tank. So you can make your process go faster if you invert your tank and pump the refrigerant into the vapor port, because then it just goes full bore into the tank. I know that that was an empty tank, and I know that this system doesn't hold more refrigerant than the maximum capacity of the tank, but I am also going to put that scale under it right now just to monitor it, because you always want to pay attention and you don't want to overfill a recovery tank. It can be very dangerous. Plus your supply houses usually won't accept them overfilled. So at this point, I've got my nitrogen rig hooked up, everything's put in, pushing just enough nitrogen for brazing through the system, and it's coming out right over here. I got my core removal tool on there. You know, when I do liquid dryers, whenever possible, I keep a liquid dryer a flare. So that way, like in this instance, we have torches downstairs, but I had no need to bring them up here just to change the dryer. Same thing with the pressure control, because it has flare fittings on it. So, you know, I'm not a fan of using flares in the low temp section because of the expansion and contraction, and I know there's stuff you can do, but I'm just not a fan of using flares downstairs. But up on the roof, I like to use a flare on the dryer, and then I get the male-female sight glass, so that way you can just come up with some wrenches if you have to make a leak repair or something downstairs. So that's what we're doing right now. We have my coworkers downstairs changing the evaporator coil. As soon as he gets the 2 lines brazed up, then I'll start my evacuation on the system. Whenever possible, I try to vacuum the system without a manifold gauge set. Now, I know there's an argument to be made there, but there's times that I believe that you just got to use your manifold, okay? Small little reach-in coolers where you don't have room to put all the big fancy stuff. I know there's all kinds of new stuff out there. I'm currently running an Appion rig here, so, you know, I mean, this is just what I got to work with. You know, maybe someday I'll get the True Blue rig, and, you know, then I can use it on smaller stuff because it's more flexible. But, you know, you do what you got to do. Nobody's perfect. But in this situation, I'm evacuating with just hoses. I have a vacuum tee, and I'm going into I have a Schrader core removal tool on that one because there is a Schrader in there, and I pulled the Schrader out. I've got my micron gauge on that one, and eventually I'll valve off and then just pull from the other side, so that way I get a true reading on my micron gauge. But I want to get the system, you know, down below or down in the low range first, and then I'll go further. Then I'm hooked up directly to the receiver, which does not have a Schrader in it, and we're just evacuating down, okay? Alright, so not much different. It's the identical coil. So new coil's in, we're just doing a leak check on it. Even though we pulled the vacuum and it held, we're still gonna, I pressurized the system, and we're gonna pressure and check the welds for leaks, and I did all my flare fittings upstairs, so everything's good, and then we'll charge it up.
Okay, so this was a service call on a set of cook drawers that weren't working properly. The call actually came in on New Year's Eve night about 6 p.m. and I talked him out of it because I did not want to go out there on New Year's Eve night. I went ahead and talked him into a New Year's Eve morning, or New Year's Day morning, I should say. I went ahead and went out there, and that's why you saw I just gassed it up and moved on. I wasn't going to spend any time there. So we then went out a couple days later. I went ahead and changed all the evaporator fan motors that were bad, and then leak checked everything, found that the one coil was leaking, and then also it was leaking up at the dual pressure control. And then what you didn't see was I also found a leaking Schrader core on the suction service valve. So went ahead and returned, got approvals to do everything, replaced the one leaking evaporator coil. We also verified, because I mentioned that I was getting up picking up a trace behind the wall. Well, I verified that there was no leak back there, so we were good. I don't know, we were just getting some weird hit or something like that. So we went ahead and replaced the entire evaporator coil that was leaking, the dual pressure control, put a new liquid line filter dryer, changed that Schrader core. And then also too, as I rewatched the video, I realized something I didn't show you guys, that we plugged that hole on the evaporator coil. After we mounted it to the wall, there was still a hole where the line set was going through. We filled that with some cork tape, so that's not leaking air or anything like that, okay? So this wasn't a crazy one. This is just one of those ones where, you know, we had a leak and we got to change an evaporator coil. So went ahead and did that. Everything's still working great. It's been probably 2-3 weeks since that job. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to watch my videos. Really, really appreciate it. You know, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. And then also, you know, check out some of the other channels that I recommend at the end of my videos. There's all kinds of other great people, many much better than I, that make videos on YouTube. So give those guys a shot too. Okay. Other than that, we will see you guys on the next one.